Whether you're going to a sporting event, a political rally, or even a concert, you deserve to be safe. My name's Josh. I'm an attorney licensed in multiple states. We're going to be talking about people getting hurt as fans, people getting hurt as concert goers. What are your rights? What are the obligations of the venue to keep you safe? This is Not Your Lawyer, and we're going to be talking about how to survive your favorite event. Every event is different, and we'll start with sports. When you go to a baseball game, there's always the chance that you could get hit by a foul ball. What happens if a home run or foul ball hits you in the head? Can you sue the baseball player? Can you sue the team? Can you sue the stadium? The answer is usually no. There's something called assumption of the risk. If you go to the game and you sit down, you're assuming the risk that you could get hit by a ball because that's a normal thing that happens in the game. Now, that doesn't mean that it's an automatic defense. If there's supposed to be safety netting protecting you from a 90-mile-per-hour fastball and they didn't inspect it or they didn't put it up, that could be a risk. That could be negligence on the part of the stadium, opening them up to a big lawsuit. There's other things that can happen at a baseball game, though, besides getting hit by the ball. You could fall down steps that were slippery. A venue could overserve you. In fact, this happened outside of a football game last year, and it ended up deadly. In 2012, at a Buffalo Bills football game, a drunk fan was kicked out of the stadium, only to die later that night from falling. That family brought a wrongful death lawsuit, saying that the stadium was responsible for serving too much alcohol to the fan, and they ultimately won. But there's tons of ways that a stadium or sports team could be liable for the danger that you're in at a sporting event. If there's some drunk fan who is overserved and now they're starting fights and they're being boisterous in the seats, that could be liability on the part of the stadium. Most states have laws protecting people from being around overserved customers. These are called DRAM laws. There's a lot of ways to get hurt at a sporting event. LeBron James is 6'8", probably 260 pounds, and this video back from when he was playing on the Cleveland Cavaliers shows what happens when an athlete charges at you at full speed, and it's pretty dangerous. A woman was seriously injured after sitting in the back rows when a player jumped over. You can see from the highlight here, LeBron tries to hurdle her, but ends up shooting straight with the shoulder. That's enough to knock most people out or do dental damage. Now you might be thinking, oh, she's going to get $1 million payday from LeBron James, but not so fast. When you go to a sporting event, there's usually a waiver of liability. When you get tickets in fine print on the tickets, they're saying that you accept the risk of getting hit by a ball. You accept the risk of a player running into you. If you go to a rodeo, you accept the risk of falling into the pit and having to run from the bull. If you go to a basketball game, you accept the risk of Cade Cunningham missing a three-point shot and hitting you in the head. However, remember, even if there's a waiver of liability on the ticket that you paid for, that doesn't protect the owners from negligence. Negligence is never okay. If there's a duty to protect you and the team does not do that, you might have a lawsuit. What are examples of that? Well, one of the things that the NBA started doing, for example, was they started shortening the length of the space outside of the court because they wanted to put more seats there. They wanted to fit more people into it. And so players more frequently ended up jumping into the stands because they had less room to slow down. That might be an example of negligence. That might be an example of failing the duty to care for the fans. You know, sports are one thing, but concerts are also a place where people let loose. They get wild. Probably the most famous example of out of control negligence is the Travis Scott Astro World concert. This one is the craziest thing that I've ever seen personally, with 8 people dying from a crowd surge. Now, if there's not even seats, you would think normally that would be a safe environment. But if people are pressing up on each other, it can create a cumulative pressure where there's now thousands and thousands of pounds of pressure. People are pushing, shoving, and it becomes incredibly dangerous with no easy or safe way to get out. When the Travis Scott concert happened, he stopped the concert multiple times briefly to tell people to back up, but then continued playing. Multiple wrongful death lawsuits have been brought against Travis Scott for the Astro World travesty, and there are other ones that are still pending. Some of them have already been settled.
Rashid is still over on the Indiana side of the timeline.
There goes Ben Wallace again.
There goes Artest up into the crowd. He's absolutely out of his mind. And Steven Jackson slugging people in the crowd here.
The whole Indiana team is in the crowd.
And now the Pistons are coming over.
This is one of the craziest examples of a brawl taking place at a sporting event. The Malice at the Palace between the Indiana Pacers and the Detroit Pistons changed the landscape of the NBA, with fans throwing beers and hurling insults at Ron Artest, the player who would later change his name to Meta World Peace. Multiple lawsuits were filed and ultimately settled after this, with players like Jermaine O'Neal actually claiming that they were acting in self-defense. And when you watch this, it might seem like that's not the case, but then you go back and you look, there's 19,000 fans. 19,000 fans, and you're the visiting team, and you have 19,000 people yelling and screaming and then coming on the court. You might feel some type of way. You might feel like you need to defend yourself. Now, these players are still 6'6", 6'10", 280 pounds, so they ended up getting the better end of the fight. Yeah, Jermaine O'Neal comes sliding in and hits a guy so hard that he falls out. And you have to understand, Jermaine O'Neal is big. He might not look it with those other players standing next to him, but that's damn near a 7-footer. These are some of the worst examples of what could happen to you when you're a fan, but most of the time, these things go well. Some of my best memories are at concerts or sporting events. I'm a giant basketball fan. But if you or a loved one are going to an event and something tragic happens, hopefully not as serious as wrongful death, but maybe you were assaulted by a drunk fan, or maybe somebody damaged your car when they were dancing on top of it after the team won a game, you deserve to have a good time and be safe. But if something tragic does happen and you need a lawyer to make sure that you get justice, you can reach out to us at notyourlawyer.law or call us on the number below, and I will make sure that you get the help that you deserve. My name's Josh, and remember, on this channel, I'm not your lawyer, but I'm just one phone call away. Stay safe out there.